Welcome back to Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate Prowler Only. Last time we took on Hyper Silver Astalos and Hyper Shogun Cianatar. This time you may think we're going after his counterpart, Rathalos' counterpart. However, we will not be. We'll actually be going after one of the Fated Four, its Hyper version, and then another Electric Hyper monster. First quest we're going to be taking on is called If These Rocks Could Talk. Has us hunting a Hyper Astalos in the jungle. Go ahead and take the quest, and I'll head on out. Alright, Hyper Astalos. Now, I'm going to be fighting him a bit differently than my test hunts. I did not bring Flash Bombay, however, I had such an overwhelming stock of support gauge. I think it's going to help out a lot more than just having a full 9 bars of gauge and not using them at all. It's a glass cannon, about 17,300 health. Very least that's what it was in the test hunt. I don't think Hyper Monster health can fluctuate, and it may just depend on the quest. However, he went down in under 15 minutes, about 14 minutes, something like that. Really good timing on it. It's Astalos. He's very brittle. You can hear it whenever you hit him with pretty much any weapon on the wings, especially when they're charged up. So, won't take too long. Of course, we have the Snowburn Stick equipped. Just a nice all-around ice weapon that also multiplies the gauge that you get by a very large amount. And just in general, you want to be careful. The nature of being a glass cannon is that you do hit pretty hard. And in both of these hunts, I have lost both acorns. And that's more because if you are not on guard, you will be hit and smacked around quite a bit, because they use their arms quite a bit, both of these monsters. I'm going to go back to talking about Astalos specifically, though. This would be where Flash Bombay is more useful. However, I do want to just wait. I'm not going to try to go for air dunks. I don't think that's going to be the most useful because he's not in the air for very long. Unless he's using his tail in the ground and doing that little dome explosion. I'm not sure if that actually does trigger. I think it should trigger an air duct, but we'll find out. The scariest thing in the attack that I get hit the most by is those little 1-2 wing combos. They're not hard to tell when they're coming out. The problem is if you're right in the middle of a boomerang combo when he pulls it out, because you can't dodge out of that immediately. You do have to give it some time, and if you've immediately started a boomerang throw, you may just end up being hit by it. You can't go immediately and under it either, as it still does explode towards the ground. I'm curious if that even works. It did. Unfortunately, we got hit by it, so some of its effectiveness is diminished. However, we have a really good line here to hit the wings and the face. I got a KO on Astalos. It took quite a while, though. It's helpful that his face is fairly weak. I mean, he's just a really fun monster to fight because he has weak spots all over. And he's not going to fold completely to them, but you are rewarded for breaking each part with flinch, usually whenever it is charged up. Go ahead and go for the wings here. Again, fairly simple fight. You're just making sure you're waiting for him to attack. If he's doing head turns, punish him that way. I'm going to throw this out. Very close. You may be hit by the wing sometimes, or it may hit the wing and explode on you. Again, that's the worst part about Flash Bombay. It is, at least it feels like it was designed to be the most cumbersome thing to use at most points. Like, even if, like, obviously a flash horn wouldn't make sense, but I think a flash horn would be more comfortable to use. Yes, it does act independently, the Flash Bombay. However, at the very least, ultrasonic horn, as horrible as it is to actually use against monsters, it does have a zone-wide effect, and, you know, you're not going to be knocked back by it and lose some of the effectiveness that you would normally have on it. But that's okay. Again, we're already getting 2 uses out of it, so that's much more than a lot of the other fights where I don't feel safe enough to throw it out. So I think it'll be very much useful. That will apply paralysis. Sometimes he'll do his little air tackle into you. I've been hit with paralysis there, almost died to it, but his air tackle just kind of ignored me completely, even though I was paralyzed. It was weird. There's like a weird zone, I guess a dead zone, in the middle of his little wing tackles from the air that just kind of doesn't hit you, which, you know, is nice for you, but it does make it feel a little odd to sometimes try to dodge because you may try to get the adept hitbox on it and it just not activate, and then you get hit by a follow-up. I'm hoping he's coming to this area, and I'm hoping I can actually catch him in the right direction for a Flash Bombay. I maybe should have started that earlier. We'll see. Yeah, that should actually go off. He may not be flashable during that animation. I didn't think about that. So it would have been better to just use 2 bars of gauge for a Mega Boomerang. However, as you can see, we still have 3 bars of gauge. Since the majority of his weak spots, or since he is a majority of weak spots, the majority of the time his hyper spots are also going to be on there, meaning it's going to be very juicy hit zone wise, and you're farming extra gauge. Again, it is just a very fun fight. It funnels you into using your hunter arts or your prowler moves as much as you possibly can, as long as you have the opening for it. And that's really the main challenge of the fight, is just finding those openings. And even if not, just regular boomerang spam generally works as just a safe option, and then noticing the times where he just, overcommits to something or falls out of the air because you've staggered him or something like that. Again, very fun fight. I can't really say much about him. I'll say this, I like this version. He's crunchier. I know I say that a lot, but he's very crunchy, especially compared to like his Sunbreak counterpart, where the hit effects in Sunbreak are just kind of soft. And not soft as in a, like, squishy soft, but more like a, I don't know, it's weird. It's like you're not hitting a object. It's more like you're hitting dirt or something. Again, it's weird. And yes, crunchy may not make the most sense either. I think it makes sense on this guy because he looks very brittle. I don't know, though, maybe not. But I do prefer the hit designs here as opposed to Sunbreak, especially for Astalos. Just as much more satisfying hitting him on the right spots with certain weapons. I do believe there is a slight difference between blunt weapons and cutting weapons. Their sound effects and stuff, but I think the general idea is still that it's fairly crunchy when you actually hit monsters. And even if you're not playing Prowler, if you're playing a regular weapon, it still sounds that way. Like, go and hit the weak spot on Atalka or Celtis, talking about bug monsters a lot. Just Rathalos and stuff as well. It's very satisfying, and the hit lag that comes along with it really just makes you feel the real power behind your attacks. Even if they're not the most powerful, this may not be the best. You can always counter that attack with a Mega Boomerang, so if you don't have Flash Bombay, don't feel too bad about it. I haven't had a reason to switch off of Flash Bombay. So, I've just been holding it and keeping it and thinking about it in case I do want to switch to it and not have Go Fight win, especially on these standard hunts that aren't going to be pushing you to your absolute limits on healing and whatnot. It's perfectly fine to use this just for more damage. Now, he's kind of weird. He'll do this slow turn, and that's something you're maybe used to a monster doing when he limps. However, no, he'll do that when he limps, but that's just because he always does it. I don't know if it's like the hyper modifiers being weird or if it's just a weird Astalos clerk. But it does happen. Here comes the air tackle. I did not mean to throw that out. That's actually very much a waste because I could have gotten a Mega Boomerang off. We'll try to capitalize on this. He's looking at me. I don't like that. I'm going to back away a little bit further. Flash tolerance is very high now, so just going to try to be careful. As always, we have earplugs. It's always nice if the monster likes to spam roars. We just get a lot of free damage off on him. As we are right now. Comes a wing swipe. Counter that. Try to rebuild some gauge here since I did use a bunch of attacking options. There's a wing tackle. That's fairly pinpoint. It does look wild, but, where the electric effects are, that's generally where the hitbox is. It may extend out a little bit further, but not too much. Like, as you can see there, I was kind of there, but not really. So you want to avoid the visual hitbox of the wings. However, you may just end up being safe, even if you don't. This big shot. Try to get this angled here. Go through both wings, maybe clip the face. It's a bit harder to hit the face if you're trying to go for both wings, but you still can do it. It's not completely impossible. And like before, when he's on the ground, if you're at a great angle, you can actually clip the face into the wing, get the brunt of the damage off there. And again, that's always perfect because Mega Boomerang does work like that. I really wish it did apply element. However, beggars can't really be choosers. We don't have the best damaging options anyways. So something that does some decent amount of damage, even if it does take a while to get out and does use a decent amount of gauge, is still pretty nice to just have as an option to push your limits at the very least damage-wise. And since it It does stack with all of your other ranged effects, just not your element stuff. So again, it does have some synergy. Very close there, but did not trigger the adept, which is good. I'm going to try to stay away from the swing swipe. The second one should not hit me. Go for the face. Throw one more out. Make sure I have enough time to get away from these wing slams. As long as you move laterally, you should be fine against the wing slams. However, again, you do just want to be careful. If you are caught at an odd cycle, you may just end up being hit by it because this tracking activated a little bit earlier than you anticipated. And certainly don't try to cross them up too much. Saw me there just being a little too greedy. I thought I was out of range, but I ended up not being. I think this will hit. It did not, which is good. As you can see, the wing swipe from the opposite direction still does come a little bit to the other side. So you're not completely safe if you're immediately on the right side of his face in that case. There we go, get an air stagger. That is great. Go ahead and throw this out. This is that angle I was talking about earlier. I'm going to try to get another one. We get a KO. I'm going to go for the wings here. There's not much of a difference between the wings. In fact, the wings may actually be weaker than the face. But you saw what the face got us there. It got us a KO, which is really nice. I maybe could have thrown another one out there. Cat's activated Go Fight Win. I was not paying enough attention, but that would have been a really nice thing to get off. I'm still trying to play somewhat safely. The bottom side of his stomach is also still a hitbox when he does the wing slams, so you still want to be careful in that regard. Nice break. I believe I knocked the charge out of his face, looks like. What was that? Maybe his face. Yes, his face. Kind of hard to tell sometimes. Tailspin. Countered that incorrectly. Thankfully, he tracked a little too late there. Or I guess too early. So it didn't actually end up hitting me. Ideally, he should be at limping because we're getting a lot of stuff off on him. I'm going to hold block. Never mind. There's just rage coming off at random points. And it's actually kind of a neat thing. It is kind of an adjacent to Agitator, except instead of it triggering when the monster enrages, it triggers when you enrage. You don't get the attack boost, I believe, that Agitator gives, but the affinity is nice, and you get a speed boost from it, which Agitator does not give. So it's an interesting trade-off. It does cost quite a bit to activate on its own if you're using a fighter cat, but it is nice when it just does randomly activate for the other biases. Get another knockdown. And it may be similar to Velkhana. I do not remember. I've been playing this game for the past 3 years. I don't remember a lot of stuff. But it may be similar to Velkhana, where once you break a certain amount of charge off of them, then you actually get a knockdown for it. I'm not 100% certain. This looks like a limp animation. Yes, it is. Finally. So, won't get him here, but he'll go down very soon. May not be before the 15-minute mark. I've got a bit of time, so we'll see. Got paralyzed by the tail sting there. I didn't see it. It's my bad for having the camera turned away, but we'll break out of it maybe before he hits us, yes. Again, not difficult, really much in the slightest, as long as you're, taking time to prepare for his attacks. Obviously, if you're just trying to face tank everything, you're going to have a much harder time, especially with Thunderblight, because stun happens a lot on electric monsters. So you do want to be careful of that, but once you know the positioning of where you want to be, it is just really a fun 1-2 fight that you're countering him on everything on. I really don't have anything bad to say about the fight, just because it is very just fun. There we go. Facing death in the face. We finally take him down. Again, said what I felt about him. He's a fun fight. Not the most difficult, but he doesn't have to be. He's just a very fun guy. Either way, I'll carve him up and I'll meet you back at base. Alright, I don't think we've looked at the Hyper Astalos weapon. I probably have fought one before and most certainly think I have with Bolt Reaver. But it does have a weapon. It's the Astalos Spirit XR. I haven't talked about it at all. I haven't made a beeline for it, so you probably know it's not the best thing in the world. Has negative 20% affinity on both sides with 190 melee attack, 30 Thunder Element, and then 190 Boomerang attack with 22 Thunder Element. Purple Sharpness, pretty nice. Still not your best option. However, it is a pretty decent one. 190 raw and purple sharpness is pretty good, especially for the other raw options that you have, and the Thunder Element is a nice bonus. As usual, element is also increased by sharpness level, so that is another thing that you can actually, utilize fairly well. I think the only thing really that makes the legit anchor is the extra affinity. I believe that's 5%. And then the extra Thunder Element. Purple Sharpness isn't as strong as I believe it was in 4. I think 4 down, Purple Sharpness was a really large step up in terms of pretty much everything. However, in this game, they did drop it down a little bit, and they toned it down to make Y a more viable option for other weapons that have higher stats, even if they don't have the higher sharpness. And I think you would rather be using this one for close range anyways, but again, it is an interesting thing to think about. The raw is just flat out better for this weapon specifically. So if the monster isn't that weak to Thunder Element, you could use this. You still do want to offset that negative affinity, which I do find odd that it has negative affinity, but they may have been afraid that it was too strong otherwise. Our next monster is similar in that you could consider it a glass cannon, and I actually cycled over it at the beginning. Quest is called Zinogre Enthusiasm, has us hunting a Hyper Zinogre on the deserted island. Now, before I go into it, this is actually a quest chain one, as a lot of the Gen 3 quests are for some odd reason. First quest you have to do is a request quest. I have no idea why I completed this. I must have been just testing something and wanted to fight a low rank Brachydios or whatever. I don't know if it maybe gave something. However, and I may have actually done this for Hyperlegiacrus, maybe. However, there is a hyper request for or not a hyper. It's not hyper, I'm thinking about hyper too much. It's a request for a Brachydios on the deserted island in 3-star, and then you have to go and complete a standard G3 quest, not just regular 3-star, for Zinogre. You can do Return from the Pinnacle, and I think there's one called Howl at the Moon. At the very least, that's what I saw, but I'm not going to worry about it. You just do this one. I believe you have to do this one for your leveling up anyways. And you may also have to do it for G-Rank Thunderlord. So you'll probably already have this one done anyways. Either way, with the rambling out of the way, I'll go ahead and take the quest. Same ice weapon, just works really well. We'll head on out. Alright, Hyper Zinogre. Again, you could consider him a glass cannon. He has about 3,000 more health. And in fact, you may actually consider him more of a glass cannon. In my test hunt, he's got a little over 20,000 health, and he took about 16 minutes. So that was about 2 more minutes than it took to fight Astalos. For that much health, yeah, he's actually pretty much a glass cannon. And even more so in the fact that he can actually catch you off guard a lot more. That's kind of how Zinogre is. He's very fast, but he has a lot of tells and a lot of cooldown from his attacks. As per usual, remember that you do have increased hit zones when you are hitting Hyperspot, so don't feel too bad if you're going for the front legs, especially if you're going for a topple. Ideally, there's a Hyperspot on the face when you're fighting him. However, when that does happen, you want to be careful of the Thunder Orbs, because the face actually modifies the Thunder Orbs, not his body. There's actually no body Hyperspot that he can have. And the Thunder Orbs get ludicrously large when he has them, so be careful when it is charged. You want to pretty much treat his entire hitboxes where the orbs will come out as being filled up. Yes, you can adapt them, but if you don't want to do that, or you don't have the option to do that, just position out of the way of them. It's going to be a lot safer. You'll be able to punish him a lot more as well. Of course, since his legs are a weak spot, you can always go for those for more trips, like Seregios. And another monster where you can probably get a decent KO, somewhat decently fast at the very least. Now, since we're cats, we're going to have a harder time actually breaking him out of this charge. The best way is using your Mega Boomerang, and the longer the hunt goes on, the harder it is going to be to knock him out of it, because he will start charging faster and faster. I don't know if that's a hyper thing, maybe lets him charge a bit faster, or if it's just, standard for all G-Rank Zinogres. This is greedy. I'm going to back away. I have a feeling he's going to get charged up. when he does get charged up, he is a lot scarier. He's going to be dealing a lot more damage. Since his paw slams are powered up too, may feel similar to Red Helm in that he can actually combo you out of your adept dodges and stuff because it has some pretty strong tracking. This would be the tracking attack. He only did one there, but he can keep it going, and the fact that the hitbox is so large on it is where the scary part comes from. I'm going to try to use this. I guess I could flash him out of it. I don't think it's that useful though. There we go. There's the combo. And that tail sweep is actually fairly deceiving. It starts out slow, but whenever it's modified by hyper, it will actually speed up really fast. So if he does pull it out of neutral or just in the middle of a combo, you want to be ready to dodge that, not in the middle of something, or you will be hit for some pretty strong damage. Now, since a lot of times we can generally heal back to full because we're getting a lot of gauge just from hyper spots, we're not having to worry about it as much. However, if you're a hunter and you don't want to be stunned by it, you want to keep an eye on that. Make sure you're staying out of the way. Obviously, you can just evade it with Valor or whatnot if you're using that style. But if you're not, it is a formidable attack you want to dodge. Something to note about his little launching attacks as well is that he does throw his paw out while he's doing it. So it's not just where he hits at the end of the combo, it's the entire thing. And it can catch you off guard if you're at a distance. I think he's not going to hit you until he actually gets to you. It does apply a little early, and he does do it fairly quickly. Little launch, that's the one of them. Here comes a slam. It does look like he only swipes at the end. However, it does include that entire attack because his paw is out in front of him. I am not aiming very well here. Throw one more out. There's a good slam. I'll actually counter the legs here. I'm going to launch. We get an exhaustion flinch, so I'm going to go for a cartwheel. Some good damage, hopefully some good KO as well. There's a slam. We'll just keep walking between them. I think we'll be pretty fine there. He can combo it a third time, but he did not there. So just remember that. Keep your cycles away. That doesn't make any sense. Remember your cycles on the attacks because they are generally similar. So don't just start spamming dodges to try to get away or run away because you are still in danger. I'm going to go ahead and launch here. The back is also a weak spot. I believe maybe specifically for blunt weapons or maybe more so for cutting. I know it's a weak spot for at least one of them, so do go after it if he is on the ground and you don't have access to the face or the back legs without piercing through the back. Because the small end of the back, if that makes any sense, is not weak, but the charged up spot is. Good and soothing roll here. I have a lot of charge, so I'm going to go ahead and launch this out. Hopefully it does something. Looks like he's going to go after my Palicos, though, so we can try for another one since it is not free, but it only costs one. It's failing pretty miserably because he's doing his hip checks, which turn him around. This should work. And you can get an air dunk on him. I've seen it in World. I've seen it in this game. It's more because of damage staggers and actual timed flash bombs. But it is possible he does go airborne like that. Thank you for being cooperative, even while you were blinded. But we did use up so much of those that we're not going to get much use out of this. It's okay, though. Should be able to get out of the way of that. Actually positioned it and didn't adept it, which is good. And always, if you do have the chance, if the monster is like in this little animation loop here, try to get your boomerang spins out. They are fairly strong. And if you are, using a melee cat with a boomerang hybrid, you'll want to use that as well because all three of your buffs, your weapon upgrade, win. You can tell I'm not really in it today. Your weapon upgrade, your piercing boomerangs, your big boomerangs, those all stack together because they're all different types of buffs. So you actually can utilize that fairly well with your boomerang spins. It is really strong. It'll take like 100 damage combo up to like 150 or something like that. Whereas normally your standard boomerang combo is front loaded because that stronger boomerang is at the front. It kind of evens out the entire combo. You say it like that. Now we got a break. I think that's a horn break, maybe. It looks a little chipped, but I may be making that up in my head. He is moving around a lot, so I can't really tell. Yeah, it's not a little chipped. I don't know what I broke. Maybe the chest? I want to say it's chipped. I cannot see. Okay, yes, it is. There's a tiny, tiny chunk taken off the front. I think he's fixing to charge, so we'll try to get this out. I'm going to aim it at the legs. If I get a topple, that's good. Flinch is good as well. Just stops him from charging. He does have sparks flying off of him, so he can charge up pretty quickly. It may be the next one that he goes into. Just depends on if we get a flinch or not. He's going to actually cancel this one into a charge. He is very far away. I think the face is the best bet if it's going to get hit or hit anything. Finally charges up. I'm going to throw one uncharged one out here. Just growling. So I should have charged those. Let go too early. It's okay though. He goes tackling off into the wall. He likes to do that a lot. Even when he's like limping and stuff, he'll just kind of run into a wall sometimes. I don't know if it's like a set distance he has to run. I mean, generally, you know, kind of, if you understand how the movement works in the game, then yes. They'll move a set distance before they recalculate their path. But they are interesting sometimes. That hit me. You can see how much damage that does there when he's charged up. Gotta be really careful because he is trying to swarm me here. That's a fairly generous attack as well that you can counter. It is not like Thunderlord where you can combo it with the tail sweep. You don't want to counter that with the Mega Boomerang if it is Thunderlord, but if it's not, you should be okay. That may have been the second horn break or an arm break. What are you, parts of you are breaking? I don't even know what part that was. Okay, no, it looks like his left claw. Maybe? Yes, the toe was chipped. Having a very hard time distinguishing what's actually breaking. Here comes the sweep. Good. And again, since his face is charged up, you see those massive Thunderbug balls coming out all over the place. And I assume they do a lot of damage. Don't get hit by them very often. I don't think my thunder resistance is that low. It may be low. I know it is ice. I think it's ice. No, it is thunder resistant. So taking extra damage may have been better to actually use some different armor for this. But I think you can see we're doing fine. We did fine against Astalos. We're doing fine against Zinogre. It's not really the end of the world. We're aiming to not get hit anyways. So any extra damage we take, we'll just try to heal off naturally through healing and whatnot. There we go. That's really good. That was the KO. Getting a lot of damage off actually on a head, which is good. That did not reach. Just try to keep this charge going. Just hit the 10-minute mark. Now, obviously, it would have been better there if we actually had Mega Boomerang going, and I could have used one. However, it's not the end of the world. Again, we get some openings here and there. As long as we're vigilant and staying aware of that, we should be getting them off. And certainly, if you are playing in multiplayer, well, you won't be getting your Palico buffs. You will still be getting a lot more chances for Mega Boomerang because you're a ranged weapon and the monster isn't always targeting you. It is generally also safer in the sense that you won't be getting hit hopefully as often. Now, if you are playing very close to the monster in multiplayer, it can be a bit chaotic. However, as long as you're keeping an eye on making sure the monster's not targeting you before you start doing your big commitment attacks, you should be getting a lot of chances for damage. Now, these shots are random. They may not be random, but they don't target you. I'll say it like that. It's not like Carrion where it'll actually target you at the end. So as long as you stay away from the spots it usually hits, you should be fine to get a Mega Boomerang out like I did there. Actually tried to dodge into this. That did not work. Thought he was going to try to cancel that. Or he did cancel it. Thought he was going to try to do it into a charge. He did not, though. It's okay, though. Comes a little tackle forward. Now, I've not seen any topples yet, surprisingly. However, again, I've been focusing more on the face and less on the legs. Good flinch. Need to start building back up before he does actually start charging again. Looks like he's maybe... Nope, not yet. It's good. There we go. And he can just pull that out of neutral sometimes. It's not too surprising. I think he could do this in 4 Ultimate as well, specifically the G-Rank version. Which isn't surprising. It's the same generation, so the monsters are going to be mostly the same, with maybe a couple of different additions and some things removed also. It's just that he's slower overall than his 4 Ultimate counterpart. Alright, that was very close. I could have very easily been hit by that, and I am going to be hit by that one. Again, he can just pull that out of random. And there's nothing that really stops him from spamming it multiple times other than just him not pulling it. I don't really know what his AI tells him to do that. Because some attacks you can bait, like Teostra's Charge and stuff, but that one's just kind of weird. He does spam it a lot sometimes, though. So you get used to him spamming it, you play a lot safer, and then he quits spamming it, and then you let your guard down, and then he starts just spamming it again. He's a very funny animal. Get a second horn break finally. I may actually start going for the claw there. Dodge this. He does not continue, so I'm going to throw this one out. Did jump backwards, though. Dodge there. Go for the back legs. Since they are just a really easy hit spot, and again, they can trigger topple if we get it. Try to chase him, maybe see if we can get a leg topple or not. I don't know. Get another break randomly. I assume that's on the other leg because I aimed at it and was hoping to get a break there. That's what it looks like. I don't really know any other breaks. Maybe the back can be broken, but that's probably about it. I believe the tail can be chipped as well, but we're not aiming for that. It's completely worthless. Can't even cut it off. All right, there's our first acorn. Should have honestly just disengaged there. Again, I have plenty of gauge to actually just heal, even without go fight when spam. You just get so much gauge because a lot of his frontal body, which is where you're aiming, is getting it. Now the tail stays permanently charged, so you only have one spot that's actually moving around. Find it interesting. I kind of would think of the claws maybe more as a thing, Zinogre wise, but I guess the devs don't think of it that way. They think of his tail being more of the special mechanic of Zinogre. I mean, it does fluctuate between the face and the claw, which, you know, somewhat iconic. Again, I find it weird that the face is what charges up his thunder orbs, because I guess maybe it's like a lightning rod? I don't know. I'm fixing to lose another acorn, so I'm just going to use the skill fight win to heal back up. Never mind. Just spam X. Ramble and ramble. Don't mind getting hit. That's okay. I guess I don't have to heal up as much anymore. Whatever. I do have to be a lot more careful now, and we are past 15 minutes, so hopefully he goes down sometime soon. There we go. After floundering around on the ground for a bit, he finally dies. Again, takes a bit of time. Bit more time, actually. So, what, 16 to about 20? 4 more minutes? Again, I'm not giving it my all when I have to talk, because, as you can see, it takes a lot of computing power, so I just get worse at everything. Either way, I've finished him off. I'll go ahead and cover him up. Meet you back at base. Alright, so on the quest reward screen, you actually get something pretty interesting. And I didn't notice it before because the other quest I got it on was Brachydios. This is an ocean pyroxene, I think. Either that or pyrocene. Something like that. I'll talk about this, but we'll go ahead and take it and then head back. I actually have 4 of them now because of other quests that I've done. So that particular quest for Zinogre you would get from the Moga Chief's son in Yukomo. And the ocean pyroxene is actually a material, and I kind of forgot about this, but I thought it was weird that it would come from a Legiacris, which is the monster I got it from before. It's actually a rare material from a Deus, which is a Leviathan monster, actually classified as an Elder, in Monster Hunter Tri, 3 Ultimate. If you played those games, you know. If you know generally anything about Monster Hunter, you have probably heard the name before. When you do the quest for the Moga Chief, for that specific Hyper Zinogre, you'll actually get the recipe for Helios armor. If you're playing as a male, if you're playing as a female, it will be the Selene armor. This was the Deus armor. Now, it uses some other Elder Dragon materials, the Shigaru Magala Purifier, the Valstrike Sponge Shell, and then the Radiant Mucus Plus from Nikarkos. The others are from the monsters that they're named after. I don't know if this is actually pretty good. I know it was actually really good in 3 Ultimate, at least Goldbeard set. I don't know if regular Deus was good at all. But that one came with Handicraft and some other really good stuff. This one comes with Train Crit, Elemental, and Hearing, so I guess earplugs. But other than that, I don't really know if that's actually really good at all. And just to show how actually decent it is, at the very least defense-wise, even though it is an orange rarity, I don't remember what it is, but it's like rarity 9 or something. The Dragon Head from Fatalis has 134 defense, while the Helios Helm Cross has 128. That's not that much, and especially after upgrades, it'll, you know, be comparable even then. So it's more just for the skills. The other rarity 9 armors are not as much. 120 for Gravios. Even at the very end of the other ones, you know, you get 124 or 128 for Devil Joe. So it's on par with those. Though Shigaru does have 132, so maybe not as good, but it's only a few defense. Also, you can make the very neat looking Cedeus weapon. I think it's an anchor, but it looks pretty cool. Probably not that good. It's a water element greatsword. I'm sure all the other ones are water element. I don't know of any of them that are actually meta, so to speak, but they look really nice at the very least. Of course, since we're cats though, we don't get materials for it, or we get materials, obviously we get materials, but we don't actually get any armor for it because we don't deserve it. Either way, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a comment below and maybe even consider subscribing. Until next time,